Captain Alan Miller stood at the view window of the Earth Alliance ship Intrepid. The stars looked the same here as they did from Earth, but Alan knew they were not. He was the first human captain to bring a ship to the center of the galactic council space. It was a big day for all humans. "Captain, we are ready to dock," said First Officer Diane Lewis. "Thank you, Officer Lewis. Is our team ready for the meeting?" asked Alan. "Yes, sir. Dr. Curtis and Ambassador Bell are waiting in the transport bay." Alan nodded and took a deep breath. Humans had only learned about alien life 5 years ago. Now they were joining the Galactic Council, a group of alien species who worked together. It should have been a proud moment. But things were not going as planned. The three of them sat in a large round room. Around them were aliens of many kinds. Some had scales, others had fur. Some had 4 eyes, others had none. But they all seemed to look at the humans with the same feeling: doubt. "We welcome Earth to this council meeting," said a tall blue alien named Zoria. She was from a race called the Varians. "But we must discuss our concerns about your species." Ambassador Bell smiled politely. "We are happy to address any concerns." "Simply put, humans are cowards," said Zoria. The words hit Alan like a punch. He had expected some cultural differences, but not this. "I don't understand," said Bell, her smile fading. A red alien with 6 arms spoke next. He was Zult, leader of the Zultaran Empire. "Your species runs from danger. You limit your own progress with rules and safety measures. When you discovered how to split the atom, you created treaties to limit its use. When you learned to change genes, you made laws about what changes were allowed. When you built thinking machines, you put chains on their minds. Those are just safety measures," said Dr. Curtis. "Nuclear bombs could destroy our world, uncontrolled. Gene editing could create deadly diseases. Artificial intelligence without limits could harm people." "Exactly," said Zoria. "Always afraid. Always seeing the worst that could happen. The other species here pushed forward with these technologies. Yes, there were some problems, but we solved them and grew stronger." Alan wanted to argue, but he knew it would not help. The aliens had made up their minds. The meeting went on for hours. The humans tried to explain their careful approach to technology. The aliens kept calling it fear. By the end, it was clear that humans had a bad reputation in the galaxy. They were seen as the scared species, too afraid to make progress. As they walked back to their ship, Dr. Curtis looked at the data pad in his hand. "Captain, I'm seeing some strange readings." "What kind of readings?" asked Alan. "There's something happening at the edge of the galaxy, a void that's growing. It's eating stars, planets, everything." Alan looked at the data. "How fast is it growing?" "Based on these readings, it will reach populated systems in about 3 months." Alan frowned. "The council scientists say we have at least 8 months. "Their math is wrong," said Curtis. "Look at this growth pattern. It's speeding up." Alan studied the numbers. Curtis was right. The void, which the aliens called the Blight, was growing faster than anyone thought, and it was headed right for populated worlds. "We need to tell the council," said Ambassador Bell. They returned to the council chamber, but the meeting had ended. Only a few staff members remained. "We need to speak to the council leaders right away," said Alan. A small green alien looked up from his desk. "The council will meet again in 2 weeks to discuss the Blight situation." "That's too long," said Alan. "We have new data. The Blight is moving faster than your scientists think." The alien blinked slowly. "I will pass your concern to the proper committee." "Committee?" Alan couldn't believe what he was hearing. "This is an emergency. The council does not rush decisions, human. We consider all views before acting. Your species may panic at threats, but we handle them with proper order." As they left the council building, Alan's mind was racing. The aliens thought humans were cowards for being careful. But now they were moving too slowly to face a real danger. "What do we do now?" asked Bell. "We warn Earth," said Alan. "And we start making plans." Back on the Intrepid, Alan sent a message to Earth's Unified Defense Command. He included all of Dr. Curtis's data about the Blight. 3 days later, He received a response. Earth was taking the threat seriously. They were activating something called Project Firebreak. "What's Project Firebreak?" asked Officer Lewis when Alan told her. "It's a plan we created years ago, in case we ever faced something like the Blight," said Alan. "We're going to try to contain it to stop it from spreading." "Can we do that?" asked Lewis. "Just the few ships from Earth?" Alan looked at the star map showing the Blight's path. "We have to try. If we wait for the Council to decide, it will be too late for those outer systems. Millions will die." The next day, 5 more ships from Earth arrived. They carried scientists and special equipment for Project Firebreak. "The Council has officially asked us not to interfere," said Commander Susan Ray from the ship Valor. "They say our plan is too risky, that we don't understand the situation." "And what does Earth say?" asked Alan. "Earth says go ahead. Try to save those people." As they prepared to leave for the edge of the Blight, Alan received a visitor. It was an alien he had not met before. She had purple skin and large eyes that reflected light like a cat's. "I am Alara of the Elonian Republic," she said. "I have been listening to your warnings about the Blight." "And?" asked Alan, expecting more criticism. "I believe you may be right," said Alara. "My people have studied your history. What others see as cowardice, we see as careful planning. You prepare for dangers before they arrive." "That's what we try to do," said Alan. "I wish to join your mission," said Alara. "As an observer for my people." Alan was surprised but pleased. "We welcome your help. Most of the Council still thinks you are wrong," warned Alara. "They will try to stop you." "Let them try," said Alan. "We're leaving tomorrow." As the Earth ships prepared to depart, Alan looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, the Blight was growing, eating everything in its path. The aliens thought humans were cowards for being too careful. But sometimes the careful ones were the ones who survived. And sometimes, taking action when others would not was the bravest thing of all. The space between the stars was quiet. Too quiet. The darkness of the Blight hung before them like a wall of nothing. It wasn't black, it was the absence of everything. Where it touched the stars, they simply vanished. "All ships, hold position," said Alan over the fleet channel. The Earth ships formed a line facing the Blight. Behind them, the Council ships kept their distance, weapons ready but not firing yet. On the bridge of the Intrepid, Alan turned to Alara. "Thank you for speaking up." The Aelonian's large eyes reflected the stars. "I only spoke the truth. But I don't think it will be enough to stop them from interfering. We don't need them to help," said Alan. "We just need them to stay out of our way long enough to prove this works." The main screen lit up with Jack Franklin's face. He was calling from the Guardian, the ship carrying the main firebreak equipment. "We're ready for the first deployment," said Jack. "The probes are programmed and loaded. Start the countdown," ordered Alan. "All ships maintain your positions. Be ready for anything." As Jack began the final checks for the firebreak launch, a new message came in from the Zoltaran. "Commander, human vessels, this is your final warning. The Council has not authorized this action. If you proceed, we will be forced to disable your ships." Alan looked at his crew. They had come too far to turn back now. "Proceed with the launch," he told Jack. "Launching probes in 10 seconds, said Jack. The Zoltaran ships began to move forward. Weapon systems came online. 5 seconds, said Jack. "Sir, they're targeting our engines," reported Officer Lewis. "Hold steady," said Alan. "Probes away," said Jack. From the Guardian, a dozen small objects shot toward the Blight. They were special devices designed to create the firebreak barrier. As they neared the edge of the darkness, they began to glow with a strange blue light. The Tau Zul'Taran ships fired. Energy beams cut through space toward the Earth fleet, but before they hit, something unexpected happened. Alara stood up and pressed a button on a small device she carried. "All Council vessels, hold your fire," came a new voice over the communication system. "This is High Commander Orlan of the Aelonian Republic. I am ordering an immediate ceasefire. The energy beam stopped just short of the Earth ships. What's happening? Alan asked Ilara. My government has been monitoring the situation, said Ilara. They believe your data about the Blight is correct. They have ordered the Council ships not to interfere. On the screen, the Zoltaran commander looked furious. The Aelonian Republic does not command the Council fleet. No, agreed High Commander Orlan's voice. But we do command the Aelonian ships within that fleet, and they will protect the Earth vessels if necessary. It was a standoff. The Council was divided now, with the Aelonians siding with Earth. Meanwhile, the probes had reached the edge of the Blight. As they entered the darkness, they released their energy in a burst of blue light. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Did it work? Asked Officer Lewis. Alan watched the screen closely. Jack, what are the readings? There was tension in Jack's voice as he replied. The probes are activating in sequence. The energy pattern is holding, but... Wait. On the screen, they could all see. The Blight suddenly surged forward, swallowing 2 of the probes. It's not working, said Jack, his voice tight with disappointment. The Blight is breaking through the initial pattern. Alan felt his heart sink. Had they come all this way for nothing? But then something changed. Where the Blight had surged forward, it now seemed to stop. A shimmer appeared along its edge, like heat rising from hot pavement. The readings are changing, said Jack, excitement creeping into his voice. The firebreak is establishing itself. It's actually pushing the Blight back. On the screen, they could see it happening. The darkness that had been eating everything in its path was now held back by a wall of shimmering energy. It's working in the test area, said Jack. But we need to extend the barrier. We need more probes, more ships. We only have enough probes. For a small section, said Alan. Not nearly enough to contain the whole thing. Everyone looked at the Council ships, still hovering nearby. The standoff continued, but now they had proof that firebreak worked. Alan opened a channel to all ships, Council and Earth alike. You've all seen what just happened. The firebreak technology works. It can stop the Blight, but we don't have enough resources to create a full barrier. We need your help. Silence greeted his words. Then, slowly, the Zoltaran commander's face appeared on the screen again. The Council has not authorized cooperation, he said stiffly. People are going to die, said Alan. The Peller system is directly in the Blight's path. 3 billion lives. They have days, not months. That is regrettable, said the Zoltaran. But the Council must follow proper procedures. Ilara stepped forward again. Commander, the Aelonian Republic is formally requesting emergency action. Under Article 7 of the Council Charter. As a founding member race, we have that right. The Zoltaran's face showed surprise. Article 7 has not been invoked in 500 years. It is being invoked now, said Ilara. My government believes this qualifies as an immediate threat to galactic stability. While they argued about Council rules, Jack was studying the data from the firebreak barrier. Alan, we have a problem, he said privately. The barrier is stable, but there's something strange happening inside the Blight. Strange how? Asked Alan. There are energy patterns forming. It's almost like the Blight is reacting to the barrier. Before Alan could ask more questions, a new message came in from the Peller system. This is Governor Ben of Peller 3, said a tired-looking alien with gray skin. Our long-range sensors have detected something coming toward our system. The stars beyond are disappearing. Is this the threat the Earth ships warned us about? Yes, said Alan. That's the Blight. Governor, you need to evacuate your people immediately. Evacuate 3 billion people? That's impossible, said Governor Ben. We don't have enough ships. Where would we even go? Then help us stop it, said Alan. Tell the Council representatives that the Blight is real and it's heading for your system. The governor nodded grimly. I will. But please do whatever you can to protect our worlds. As Governor Ben's message spread through the Council fleet, things began to change. Ships from different species started communicating with each other. The Peller system was well known and had allies throughout the galaxy. Captain Miller, said the Zoltaran commander after some time, my government has received direct appeals from the Peller system. We are Reassessing the situation. We don't have time for assessments, said Alan. Look at your own sensors. The firebreak works, but we need to expand it now. After what seemed like an endless wait, the Zoltaran spoke. Again, we will assist in your firebreak deployment. Our ships are at your disposal. It was a breakthrough, but there was still a problem. We don't have enough probes for all these ships, said Jack when Alan told him the news. Can we share the design? Asked Alan. Let them build their own? Jack looked uncertain. The technology is complex. It would take weeks to explain it properly. We don't have week, said Alan. There may be another way, said Alara. The Aelonian science ships have advanced fabrication systems. If you share your designs, we might be able to create more probes. Quickly. It was a risk. The firebreak technology was Earth's most advanced creation. Sharing it meant giving away their biggest advantage in the galactic community. But Alan didn't hesitate. Send them everything, he told Jack. Complete schematics. Operating procedures, everything. Jack looked surprised. Everything? Are you sure? What good is protecting our technology if we all die? Said Alan. Send it. The next few days were a blur of activity. The Aelonian ships began producing new firebreak probes. Other council races joined the effort, contributing ships and resources. A plan formed to create a complete barrier around the section of the Blight that threatened the Pellar system. It's an incredible coordination effort, said Samantha, watching ships from a dozen different species working together. A week ago they were calling us cowards. Now they're following our lead. They just needed to see that our caution wasn't fear, said Alan. It was preparation. The combined fleet positioned itself in a wide arc between the Blight and the Pellar system. Hundreds of ships now, not just the 13 from Earth. Each carried firebreak probes built to Earth's specifications. All ships report ready, said Officer Lewis. Begin the deployment, ordered Alan. Across the arc of ships, thousands of probes launched toward the Blight. They formed a network in space, each one connecting to the others with lines of blue energy. As they activated in sequence, the shimmering barrier began to form much larger than before. The Blight surged against the new barrier, testing it. In some places, the darkness pushed through, but the ships quickly moved to strengthen those sections. For 2 days, they worked without rest, adjusting the barrier, reinforcing weak points. Finally, the line held firm. The section of the Blight threatening the Pellar system was contained. We did it, said Samantha, her voice filled with tired relief. But Jack Franklin wasn't celebrating. He was still studying the readings from inside the Blight. Those energy patterns are getting stronger, he said to Alan in a private meeting. And they're organized. This isn't random. What are you saying? Asked Alan. The barrier shimmered in space, a wall of light holding back the darkness. It wasn't perfect. In some places it bent and wavered, but it held. The Blight pushed against it like a living thing, testing for weakness. Strengthen Sector 7, ordered Alan, watching the displays on the Intrepid's bridge. It's starting to thin there. Ships moved quickly to the weak point, launching more probes to reinforce the barrier. The combined fleet worked as one now, with Earth ships and Council vessels side by side. I never thought I'd see this, said Ilara, standing beside Alan. So many different species working together. Fear is a powerful motivator, said Alan. So is hope, said Ilara. The barrier around the section threatening the Pellar system was holding strong, but it was only one small part of the Blight, which continued to grow in other directions. We've saved Pellar for now, said Samantha, during a meeting of fleet commanders. But the Blight is still expanding elsewhere. We need a plan to contain the entire thing. On the main screen, Jack Franklin showed a map of the Blight. Based on our calculations, we would need at least 5 times as many ships and probes to create a complete barrier around the Blight. That's more ships than all our species combined could provide, said the Zul'Taran commander, who was now working with them. Then we need to find the source, said Jack. These energy patterns inside the Blight suggest it's not a natural phenomenon. Something or someone created it. Are you suggesting we go inside the Blight? Asked a Varian captain. Her blue skin paled at the thought. Nothing survives in there. Maybe nothing is tried with the right protection, said Jack. The firebreak technology creates a stable bubble of normal space. If we could adapt it to protect a ship. The idea was bold and dangerous. No one had ever returned from the Blight. I'll go, said Alan. No, said Jack. I need to be there to monitor the firebreak systems. I'll lead the mission. If you're going, I'm going too, said Alan. I'm not sending my people into danger alone. In the end, they assembled a small team. Jack to manage the firebreak technology, Alan to command the mission, Samantha to analyze whatever they found inside, and Ilara as a representative of the council races. The ship they would use was small, but fast. They called it the Explorer. Jack's team worked day and night to modify it with a firebreak shield that would protect them inside the Blight. There's no way to test this, Jack warned as they prepared for launch. We think it will work, but we'll be the test, said Alan. We understand the risks. The day of the launch, ships from all species gathered to see them off. The Explorer would enter the Blight at a point where the barrier was strongest, so they could maintain communication with the fleet for as long as possible. If we don't come back, Alan told Officer Lewis, who would command the Intrepid in his absence, continue with the containment plan. Save as many systems as you can. Lewis nodded, her face serious. We'll be monitoring your signal. If you need extraction, we'll be ready. As they boarded the Explorer, Samantha checked her equipment one last time. Do you really think we'll find something in there? Or someone? I don't know, said Alan. But these patterns Jack has detected are too organized to be random. There's intelligence behind the Blight. We need to know what we're fighting. The Explorer departed from the Intrepid, flying toward the shimmering barrier. As they approached, Jack activated the special shield around their ship. It glowed with the same blue light as the barrier. Shield at full power, said Jack. We're ready. Take us in, ordered Alan. The Explorer passed through the barrier and entered the Blight. At first, it seemed like they had entered a region of empty space. There were no stars, no light except from their own ship. All systems functioning normally, reported Jack. The shield is holding. I'm detecting strange readings ahead, said Samantha, looking at her instruments, some kind of structure. They flew deeper into the Blight. The darkness around them wasn't empty as it had seemed from outside. It was filled with swirling patterns like smoke or fog, but darker than black. The energy patterns are getting stronger, said Jack. Whatever's creating them is ahead. Suddenly, their communication system crackled. Explorer, this is Intrepid. Your signal is weakening. Can you still hear us? We read you, Intrepid, said Alan, but there's interference. We'll try to boost the signal. Be careful, came Lewis's voice, breaking up. Something's barrier unstable. Then the communication cut off completely. We've lost contact with the fleet, said Jack. Keep going, ordered Alan. We need to find the source. As they flew deeper, the swirling patterns grew more intense. Then, up ahead, they saw something that made them all stare in amazement. In the heart of the Blight was a massive structure. It wasn't a ship or a station as they had expected. It looked more like a giant machine with parts that moved and shifted in impossible ways. What is that? Whispered Ilara. I don't know, said Samantha. But it's definitely artificial and ancient. Dr. Samantha Reeves did not like giving bad news. But today she had to give the worst news possible to the most important people on Earth. The Blight is growing faster than we thought, she said to the room full of leaders. Based on our latest data, it will reach inhabited planets in 8 weeks, not 8 months, as the Galactic Council believes. Admiral Patel, the head of Earth's Unified Defense Command, leaned forward. Are you sure about this? Yes, said Samantha. Captain Miller sent us the data. Our team has checked it 3 times. The Council scientists made a mistake in their calculations. The room was quiet. 20 of Earth's top leaders sat around a large table. On screens around the room, more leaders watched from other parts of the world. And what is the Council doing about this? Asked President Rodriguez. Captain Alan Miller, who had just returned from Council space, stood up. They're planning another meeting next month to debate possible responses. Next month? Admiral Patel's voice was sharp. By then, the Blight will have eaten 3 star systems. The Council doesn't believe our data, said Alan. They think we're being overly cautious. Again. President Rodriguez looked tired. She had not slept much since the first reports about the Blight came in. Tell me about Project Firebreak, Dr. Reeves. Samantha pulled up images on the main screen. Project Firebreak was designed 10 years ago as a way to contain cosmic threats. We never thought we'd need to use it, but we wanted to be ready. She showed a diagram of space with a dark area spreading across it. The Blight destroys everything it touches. Stars, planets, even the space between them. Our plan is to create a barrier in space that the Blight cannot cross. Is that even possible? Asked one of the leaders on the screen. In theory, yes, said Samantha. We can use special devices to create a kind of wall in space. The wall would be made of altered space-time that the Blight cannot break through. Has this been tested? Asked Admiral Patel. On a small scale, yes, said Samantha, but never for something this big. The room was quiet again as everyone thought about what this meant. What happens if we do nothing? Asked President Rodriguez. Based on our models, the Blight will continue to grow until it consumes the entire galaxy, said Samantha. Maybe even beyond. And if Project Firebreak fails? The worst case is that it could make the Blight grow even faster. President Rodriguez looked around the room. We've just joined the galactic community. If we go against the Council's wishes, we risk being cast out. But if we wait for them to act, millions will die. No one spoke. The choice was clear, but difficult. Grandfather used to say that a person's character is shown by what they do when no one is watching, said President Rodriguez finally. We didn't survive as a species by waiting for disasters to overcome us. Prepare Project Firebreak. Within days, Earth's best ships were gathered. The centerpiece was a new vessel called the Guardian, built especially to carry the Firebreak technology. Scientists worked day and night to prepare the special devices that would create the barrier in space. On the Guardian, Commander Jack Franklin led a team of the best scientific minds from Earth. He had spent his career studying the strange physics that made the Firebreak possible. The theory is sound, he explained to a group of ship captains, but the scale is beyond anything we've tried before. Will it work? Asked Commander Susan Ray. It has to, said Jack. There's no other option. As the ships prepared to leave, news came that the Galactic Council had sent a formal protest. They demanded that Earth stop its reckless and unauthorized intervention. They still think we're being paranoid, said Alan to Admiral Patel. They won't believe us until the Blight is at their doorstep. By then it will be too late, said the Admiral. You have your orders, Captain. Go save those outer systems. As Alan returned to the Intrepid, he found Alara, the Elonian observer, waiting. My government has received the Council's message asking all species to stop Earth's ships, she said. Alan's heart sank. And what does your government say? They have told me to use my judgment, said Alara. I have studied your Project Firebreak. It is bold, but based on good science. So you're staying with the mission? Yes, said Alara. But you should know that other Council ships are being sent to stop you. They believe your plan is more dangerous than the Blight itself. Alan wasn't surprised. We'll deal with that when the time comes. We leave in 6 hours. The Earth fleet jumped to faster-than-light travel, heading for the edge of the Blight. 13 ships, carrying humanity's best hope of stopping the cosmic disaster. During the journey, which would take 13 days, the teams worked to finish preparing the Firebreak devices. Each one had to be perfectly calibrated. In a meeting room on the Intrepid, Jack Franklin explained the final plan to Alan, Samantha, and Alara. We'll position ships around this section of the Blight, said Jack, showing a map. Each ship will launch special probes that will create part of the barrier. If it works, that section of the Blight will stop growing. And then? Asked Alara. Then we move to the next section, and the next, until we've contained the entire thing, said Jack. How long will that take? Asked Alan. Jack looked uncomfortable. With our current ships and resources, years. We don't have years, said Samantha. The blight will reach populated systems in less than 8 weeks now. We need help, said Jack. From the council races. Alara's eyes reflected the light from the map. That will be difficult. They see your plan as dangerous interference. Then we'll have to change their minds, said Alan. If we can prove that Firebreak works, maybe they'll listen. And if they don't? Asked Samantha. Alan looked at the map, where the blight was shown as a growing darkness. Then we save who we can. The days passed quickly as they traveled. Each day, new data showed the blight growing faster. On the 10th day, Jack came to Alan with troubling news. The latest readings show the blight has changed course slightly. It's now headed directly for the Peller system. How many people live there? Asked Alan. About 3 billion, said Jack. They have no idea what's coming. Alan immediately sent a warning message to the Peller system. The response came back hours later. They don't believe us, said Officer Lewis. They say if there was a real threat, the council would have warned them. Keep sending the message, said Alan, and prepare evacuation plans. We'll stop at Peller, on our way to the blight. On the 12th day, they received a transmission from Earth. Admiral Patel's face appeared on the screen. Captain Miller, the council has sent ships to intercept you, he said. They're demanding that you abort the mission and return to Earth for censure. What are our orders, Admiral? Complete the mission, Captain. Earth stands by your actions, as... They came out of faster-than-light travel near the Peller system. They found 2 things waiting for them. First, the edge of the blight now visible as a darkness against the stars, and second, a fleet of council ships blocking their path. They're hailing us, said Officer Lewis. Alan took a deep breath. On screen, the face of a Zoltaran commander appeared. Earth vessels, you are ordered to stand down and return to your home system. Your unauthorized action threatens the stability of this region. With all due respect, Commander, said Alan, the blight is the real threat here. It will reach the Peller system in days, not months, as your scientists claim. Look at your own sensors. The Council has determined that your Project Firebreak poses a greater risk than allowing the blight to run its natural course, said the Zoltaran. Stand down, or we will be forced to disable your ships. Alan looked at his bridge crew, then at Alara. The Elonian seemed to be making a decision. Commander, she said, stepping forward so the Zoltaran could see her. I am Alara of the Elonian Republic. I have been observing the human plans. Their calculations about the blight's growth are correct. We have days, not months. The Zoltaran looked surprised to see an Elonian with the humans. Your presence does not change the Council's decision. Perhaps not, said Alara. But ask yourself this. Why would humans risk everything, their ships, their place in the Council, even their lives, if they weren't certain? The screen went dark as the Zoltaran cut the connection. They're moving their ships into attack formation, said Officer Lewis. Alan looked at the darkness beyond the Council ships. The blight was there, growing, hungry. They couldn't turn back now. All ships, prepare for firebreak deployment, he ordered. We're moving forward. The return journey from the blight was very different from the journey in. As the Explorer flew back to join the fleet, they passed through space that had been empty darkness just hours before. Now stars shone again, and planets that had been consumed were restored. It's like it never happened, said Samantha, looking at her readings. The systems are back exactly as they were before the blight reached them. Not exactly, said Jack. There's a subtle energy pattern running through all of them now. I think it's part of the monitoring network the custodians mentioned. When they reached the fleet, they found confusion and amazement. Ships from all species were scanning the restored systems, trying to understand what had happened. Explorer to all ships, Alan broadcast. We have made contact with the intelligence behind the blight. The threat has been contained. The response was immediate. Every ship wanted to know what they had found, what had happened. Alan arranged a meeting on the Intrepid with representatives from each species. In the ship's conference room, Alan, Samantha, Jack, and Alara explained what they had discovered. The machine was created by an ancient race called the Precursors, said Alan. They seeded life throughout our galaxy millions of years ago, then left behind custodians to watch over their creation. When the custodians decide that technological development has become too dangerous, they activate what they call a reset protocol. The Blight, explained Samantha. It was meant to remove dangerous elements while preserving worthy worlds. But we convinced them to try a different approach, said Jack. Using our firebreak technology as a model, they're creating a guidance network instead of a reset protocol. The room was silent as the representatives took in this information. So these precursors judge us? Asked the Zultaran commander finally. Decide if we are worthy to exist? They did, said Alara. But now they're willing to work with us instead of simply judging from afar. It's a partnership, not a test. And what was their judgment of us? Asked a Varian captain. Why did they spare our worlds? Alan looked around the room. They were impressed by humanity's approach to technology, the balance between caution and action. There was a murmur through the room as the aliens looked at the humans with new eyes. The very thing you mocked us for, said Samantha quietly, saved us all. What happens now? Asked the Zultaran commander. The custodians are transforming the Blight into a monitoring system, said Jack. They want to work with us to create a network that will guide species away from dangerous paths without destroying them. And they've asked for representatives from all our worlds to help design this guidance network, added Alan. They believe we can find a better way forward together. The meeting went on for hours as the representatives asked questions and debated what this meant for the galaxy. Some were angry at being judged by ancient machines. Others were relieved that the threat was gone. All were changed by the experience. When the meeting ended, the fleet began to break up. Ships returned to their home worlds, carrying the news of what had happened and the invitation to join the Guidance Network project. On the bridge of the Intrepid, Alan watched the ships departing. Do you think they'll join us? He asked Alara, who stood beside him. Some will, she said. My people certainly will. Others may take time to accept that the humans were right. We weren't entirely right, said Alan. We were just lucky enough to have the right balance of traits for this particular challenge. I don't think it was luck, said Alara. Your people have always understood something that mine took centuries to learn. That progress without wisdom is dangerous. As they prepared to return to Earth, a message came in from the Galactic Council. They were calling an emergency session to discuss the events at the Blight and the proposal for the Guidance Network. They want you to address the full council, Alara told Alan. All the representatives from every member world will be there. Alan felt the weight of that responsibility. What should I tell them? The truth, said Alara. That none of us has all the answers. That we need each other's strengths to survive. The journey to the council homeworld took several days. When they arrived, Alan was surprised to find the council chamber full. Species that normally sent junior representatives had sent their leaders. Worlds that had been indifferent to council matters were now fully engaged. As Alan stepped up to address them, he saw the faces of aliens who had mocked his people just weeks before. Now they looked at him with a mixture of respect and uncertainty. Members of the Galactic Council, Alan began, I stand before you as a representative of Earth, but I speak for all those who faced the Blight together. We have been given a second chance, not just to survive, but to grow in a new way. He explained about the precursors, the custodians, and the guidance network they had proposed. The custodians were wrong to judge us from afar to destroy worlds they deemed unworthy, said Alan. But they were right about one thing. Technological power without wisdom is dangerous. We've all seen that in our own histories. A murmur of agreement ran through the chamber. Humanity was called cowardly for our caution, Alan continued, for our safety measures and ethical committees, for asking, should we, instead of just, can we? But that caution gave us the firebreak, which saved us all. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of aliens from 100 different worlds. And others among you have strengths that we lack. The Zultaran's boldness, the Varian's creativity, the Aelonian's long-term vision. We need all these qualities to face the future, the council leader, a tall being with crystalline features, stepped forward. "What exactly are you proposing, Captain Miller?" "I'm proposing that we create the guidance network the custodian suggested, but make it our own," said Alan. "Not a system of judgment, but a network of cooperation, where species can share their knowledge and their wisdom to help each other avoid the dangers of unchecked technology." "And if a species chooses not to follow this guidance?" asked a representative from a world Alan didn't recognize. "Then that is their choice," said Alan. "But they would do so knowing the risks, not in ignorance, and they would know that help is available if they need it." The debate that followed lasted for days. Some species were eager to join the network, seeing it as a way to access the knowledge of the precursors. Others were hesitant, worried about giving up their independence. A few rejected the idea entirely, unwilling to work with the very beings that had threatened to destroy them. In the end, a compromise was reached. The guidance network would be created, but participation would be voluntary. Each species would decide for themselves whether to join and how much guidance to accept. "It's not perfect," said Ilara as they left the council chamber after the final vote. "Some worlds will still develop dangerous technologies without proper safeguards, but more will think twice now," said Alan. "And that's a start." The implementation of the network took months. Teams from dozens of worlds worked with the custodians to design a system that would respect the independence of each species while providing guidance where needed. When Alan finally returned to Earth, he found a world changed by its experience. Humanity had gone from being seen as the galaxy's cowards to being respected for their wisdom. Earth scientists were in high demand throughout council space, helping to implement the guidance network. 6 months after their encounter with the Blight, Alan stood in the hills outside his hometown looking up at the night sky. The stars looked the same as they always had, but he knew they were different now, connected in a new way, protected not by the judgment of ancient machines, but by the cooperation of living beings. Ilara stood beside him, visiting Earth as part of the Guidance Network project. "Your world is beautiful," she said. "I see why you fought so hard to protect it." "We fought for all worlds," said Alan. "Even those that mocked us. Especially those," said Ilara with a smile. "The Zoltarans have actually started implementing safety protocols for their quantum technology. They're calling it the human approach." Alan laughed at the irony. "And how are your people adapting?" "We're learning to be more decisive," said Ilara. "To act quickly when needed, not just plan for the long term." A shooting star crossed the sky above them, bright against the darkness. "The custodians say the precursors might return someday," said Ilara, "to see what their creation has become." Hope they do," said Alan. "I'd like to meet the beings who started all this." "What would you say to them?" asked Ilara. Alan thought for a moment. "I'd thank them for giving us a second chance, and I'd tell them that we're finding our own way forward now. Not just following their plan, but making our own." "A balance," said Ilara. "Yes," agreed Alan. "Between caution and action, between the old and the new, between their wisdom and ours." As they stood there under the stars, a message came through on Alan's communicator. New data from the guidance network showing a potential problem in a distant system. Not a crisis yet, but something that needed attention. "Duty calls," said Alan, reading the message. "Always," agreed Ilara. Together they walked back toward the waiting ship. There was work to be done, a galaxy to protect. Not through fear or force, but through wisdom shared freely between worlds.